What can I say? The hype is real. So if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I switched from drawing on Photoshop on a drawing tablet to an iPad, and now I use Procreate. And I gotta say, the main reason why I bought an iPad was Procreate. I just was seeing all the time all these amazing artists drawing on Procreate, and it looked so good that I wanted to try it too. Yeah, I'll admit, the influencers got to me. I guess you could say I was influenced. Now, ultimately, the type of drawing tablet that you need will depend on what kind of work you want to do and how much you want to invest. So if you're on the market for a new tablet and you still don't know what to choose, I've made a video on that. I'll link it on a card and on the description down below. Now, currently I use Procreate on the iPad, but keep in mind that Photoshop is a very powerful software. It's recently been made available to work on the iPad as well. When I switched, we only could use Photoshop on the computer and Procreate on the iPad. Now, with that in mind, let's get down to the reasons why I personally switched. So the first reason why I switched to Procreate was performance. Now, my computer is around 5 years old, so it's not the fastest computer there is, and so it became really slow and sluggish with a software like Photoshop, which is very heavy and requires a lot of computer power to work. And so, when you're drawing and the computer keeps lagging, it's not a fun time. And so I didn't want to buy a new computer because they're very expensive, and mine still worked. So the iPad was the next best choice because, it's not as expensive as a computer, and I didn't have any tablet before that. So I thought it was a good compromise. And it's really fast. Like, honestly, it's faster than my computer. So now I don't use my computer that often. I even edit my YouTube videos on my iPad because it's so good. The second reason why I switched to Procreate was convenience. So like I mentioned, my computer really struggled to work with Photoshop, but on top of that, I thought it was really inconvenient. Not only that it was slow, but that I had to go through the whole process of, getting my tablet to my laptop, connecting it, and then turning on my computer, turning on Photoshop, being on my desk, drawing, and it was a hassle, because especially when I had my screen drawing tablet, I even had to plug it into a power source. And the iPad really doesn't need any of that. It is so convenient. And we love convenience in this channel. Honestly, I looked at people using the iPad and I really wanted one because you can draw on the screen, it doesn't need to be plugged to a computer, and it's so fast. You can be anywhere. And when I tell you this changed my life, I'm not even exaggerating. When I got the iPad, I was able to draw on the sofa, on the park, on the train. I was drawing everywhere, and so I started drawing every day because I didn't have that friction of having to drag myself to the desk, having to be sitting down, turning on my computer, plugging into the power source. Everything was it just felt a lot, and it didn't really motivate me to start and draw because there were so many steps to actually starting. But with the iPad, it's so easy. I just turn it on, I open Procreate, and I just start drawing. It's so easy, it couldn't be more easy. And so basically I now have no excuse to not be drawing, so I guess there's that. The third reason why I switched to Procreate was the touch screen. Because yes, I had a screen drawing tablet, so I already knew what that felt like, but it wasn't a touch interface. And so I had to use either the pen buttons that the pen had, or I had to use keyboard shortcuts. And so usually my setup, because I would have the buttons on the tablet, but I would also have my keyboard down on the table. So I would be drawing with one hand and using the keyboard shortcuts on the other hand. And for the most part, that's fine, but it's really so much more intuitive to have all the gestures that Procreate offers. So I can pinch to zoom, I can rotate the screen, I can double tap to undo, I can tap with 3 fingers to redo, and there's so many more gestures that I find they just work so well. And honestly, the fact that you can interact with your hand, it's so much more intuitive. It just makes you focus more on what you're doing. You focus more on the drawing because all of the gestures just come naturally. You don't have to remember the keyboard shortcuts, you don't need to remember anything because, you know, typing Command Z, it's different than knowing the shortcut to zoom in and out and only a certain percentage. It's different from just zooming in and out as you please and to the exact amount that you want. At the end of the day, it's just more convenient and intuitive, and the less mental strain you need to make on these small tasks, the more you can focus on actually drawing. The fourth reason why I switched to Procreate was the amazing brushes that they offer. Now, I know that there are a lot of brushes on Photoshop and you can get so many online, but when I used Photoshop, I couldn't get the same results as I can now with Procreate. And maybe it's because I didn't search the internet enough for new brushes, or that I didn't know how to really tinker with the settings of the brushes on Photoshop. But the reality is, when I still use Photoshop and I would see all of these artists using the standard Procreate brushes, because that's what I'm getting at. It's the standard ones that come with the app. They look so good. You have so many brushes that are very organic looking, like the pencil stroke, the brushes that look like watercolors. I personally like the 6P brush, which looks like an actual pencil. I love the texture. But what I mean is they look really natural and they look really good out of the box. So I don't even have to, go into the settings or create a lot of new brushes. I don't need to spend hours looking for more dynamic brushes online. I just have them on the app, and I find that the standard brushes that Procreate offers are a lot better than the ones that Photoshop offers. Honestly, the Procreate brushes just suit my art style. And let's not forget that Photoshop was initially created as a photo manipulation tool, so it's a lot more complex and it has a lot more tools. So if you need to do more than drawing, Procreate is kind of limited in that sense, but it is good in the way that it makes it really easy to learn for beginners, or if you're just an illustrator, then it's really streamlined and focused on that. And you don't have a bunch of tools that you don't know how to use, or that they're just in your way and they make the interface look really complicated. So for graphic design and photo manipulation and even drawing, of course, Photoshop is a more complete software. But Procreate is just a lot simpler, it's more streamlined, it's only focused on digital art, and if you're a beginner, it's easier to learn. And honestly, I like that simplicity. I think it's a good thing. And the fifth reason why I switched to Procreate is the price. Because Photoshop is so expensive, you need to pay a subscription every month. In Procreate, it's just a one-time payment of 11 euros. So basically, I paid 11 euros, and now every time they update the app, I get all of the new features. I would say that's a pretty good deal. Okay, but obviously Procreate is not perfect. There are advantages to a more complete software and a more mature one, because Procreate has only existed for the past few years. Photoshop is obviously a more complete software. If you want to do photo manipulation or animation or graphic design and mess around with the typefaces, then that'll be better than Procreate for you. But like I mentioned, I already have a video on that, so if you want, I'll link it down in the description. Alright, I hope that was helpful, and if you're thinking of switching, I hope that this cleared things out for you and that now you've made your decision. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye!